family, it's time for a true look at your world. Let's get hooked up for Pack Therapy. Here's your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Graham Hill.
Welcome back into Pack Therapy. Joining us now, the head coach of the NC State men's basketball team, Kevin Keatts. Coach, we appreciate you for taking the time. Now, I know, basketball nerds like us, we've been in basketball aggressively already, but the football national championship was tonight, or last night, I should say, as we're recording this. So as everybody's making their way over to basketball, I'll give them the Cliff Notes real quick. Your NC State basketball team is on a four-game win streak, 3-0 in the ACC, the best start in ACC play for the Wolfpack since the 2012-2013 season. And you have a big one tomorrow at home against number 7 UNC in PNC Arena at 8 o'clock. So we appreciate you taking a little time out of your prep to join us. And I want to start with what you've learned about this team for the first bit of the season here. We talked to you at ACC tip-off, and the rotation is going to be something that's so difficult for you to pin down because of the new faces, because of the unique style of play some of these guys play and how they fit with everyone else. So, do you know what you want your rotation to be yet, or is it still a game-to-game thing where you're adjusting on the fly?
Well, Tim, what's happened? First of all, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk to you. Rotation is getting better, and here's what happens is, as you guys alluded to a little bit, we had a good rotation. We added another good player in MJ Rice, and then obviously fortunate for us with the two-time transfer that Cam Woods was able to play, and so trying to get those guys in there meaningful minutes that they could really help our program and be able to win. But we're getting there. We have grown so much over the last month. I think one of the things that really helped us is, believe it or not, when we went home for Christmas, we didn't have a game that Saturday when we got back. So we got in the gym, on the 27th and 28th and 29th, and really, develop a little better chemistry with the new guys. We kind of, we went back and we improved on some areas that we really needed to get better at. We kind of grew in that area. I know it didn't show up offensively at Notre Dame, but it did show up at the Virginia game. So we got better. So we're growing. I think one of the biggest things that these guys are understanding is how important scout reports are and knowing the offensive scouting report and also the defensive scouting report.
NC State men's head basketball coach Kevin Keatts joined us on the Pack Therapy podcast alongside Tim Donnelly. I'm Graham Hill. Coach Keatts, as Tim mentioned, this is the best start in conference play since the 2012-13 team won its first 3 ACC games. How important have the first 3 conference games been with the overtime win at Boston College, the come-from-behind performance at Notre Dame, and a balanced win most recently against Virginia this past Saturday?
Graham, you look back at the 3 games that we lost, and, those teams are obviously having a great year. And, you start with, BYU, who really shot the basketball. I think that kind of helped us. You get to someone like UVA that can stretch you out and really shoot the basketball. Losing at Ole Miss, after coming back from Vegas was a good one for us, and also Tennessee. We've learned it. Those 3 losses, we've learned from those, and I think those 3 losses are the reason why we started off 3-0. 2 of them being on the road, and one, against a very good UVA team at home. And if you're going to learn some lessons, you want to learn your lessons through, wins. We learned some lessons through our losses, and we got better. And we were able to finish 2 games on the road that were hard fought. And at the end of them, we executed. We did exactly what we were supposed to do. And then we came home and took care of what we needed to do at PNC. So when you look back at it, you hate to lose, but those 3 games, I think, really helped us be in this position right now.
What a coaching answer that is, right? We ask you about the hot start in the ACC. You take us one by one through the losses that came, long before ACC play. I think, coaches just look at the game different a little, and you're always looking at what you can build on. I want to go back to something you said earlier, which is the MJ Rice enter into the rotation, because he wasn't there for some, the losses you're talking about. And I think he kind of teased us a little bit, right? His first game back is the David Thompson statue. Late in the game, he flies in for the dunk. I think your quote was, "If you have a dunk and David Thompson is clapping, you know it was a pretty good one." And that made all of our eyes get real big, right? It's this Kansas transfer. He's got the athleticism. He brings this other thing to the lineup, but then the minutes have been limited, kind of as he's working his way back in. How close are we to seeing him, fully unleashed? And is the plan to fully unleash him when he does have that ability?
He's getting better and he's learning in practices. I'm playing him at, his natural position, more small forward or guard position. And then when we go four guards, we're trying to sprinkle him in there because he is a bigger guard. But it's a learning process. And, just imagine, not really having a summer, not really having, a non-conference, and then you kind of get thrown in the fire. So it's going to take some time. Where everybody else has been playing together. But he's a talented guy. He's learning. He's trying to work. He's figuring out now the things that, for example, a guy like DJ Horn had to figure out how to play hard in this program. And early on, his offense was effective because he didn't know, he was playing defense probably for the first time in his life. And so now MJ and Cam Woods are trying to figure out, all right, now you got to do a couple things in here. You got to play hard, number one. But you got to be able to pick up 94 feet. You got to get out in transition. So as he gets in better shape and understands concepts and, plays and all that other stuff, his minutes should go up and he'll be able to help our team.
Going off what Tim just mentioned or just asked you, the players you brought in from the transfer portal before the season, at times felt like the identity of your team and maybe the rotation on the floor has just needed time to develop, maybe a work in progress. Was the win against Virginia a good example of the style of play you want to see out of your team overall and the depth you have this season coming off the bench?
Yeah, Graham, no one wants to hear this, but it takes, when we got 8 and we were playing 6, it probably takes about 10 games. And, and especially when you don't have a foreign trip. Last year we had those 4 transfers. They were able to go to Bahamas and, play a few games and practice for 10 days. So it takes, some time for chemistry. I wish chemistry was as easy as people think. It's named chemistry, so you can try to figure it out. But I love our rotation. Michael O'Connor's coming off the bench playing really good basketball. I consider right now that we have 8 guys who could possibly start a game. Michael being one, Ben being one, and Mo being one. And then obviously trying to figure out, how do you get, Cam and MJ into some type of good rotation. But I like what everybody's bringing to the table. Everybody's playing a great role. JT has completely taken over the role of being Jarkel Joyner. Initially, he didn't buy into that. Now he's buying into, hey, you can defend and you can also score. It's hard to find a guy, a two-way guy in college basketball because they're either a defender or they're an offensive guy. And with him, he's starting to become both. So I love our rotation. I love the chemistry that we're developing with our guys.
I'm going to push back on it takes as long as you said it did to build chemistry because you're also, 7th in the country in turnover margin, and you're leading the ACC in turnover margin. Like, to me, those are stats that come very much with, that freaky thing where you throw the ball and you know where your teammate's going to be and you know where they move in transition. So there is, this group does like each other, right? It's not a whole bunch of guys that are out there trying to figure out, I don't know what they all like to do. They understand each other, right?
Yeah, this group, and to their credit, Tim, we have taken care of the basketball. And what happens is, sometime one thing, happens a little quicker than the other. Sometimes it's, maybe it's your defense is catching up. In our situation, the one thing that we have completely won is the turnover game. And, we force turnovers. But we
and
really
as a coach, though, how often do we hear the turnover be at number one on the list? Like that have to that's a good thing to stand on if you're just going to stand on one thing.
Yeah, no, and we're excited about it. We try to force as many opportunities as we can on the offensive end and not give it back. And the one area that we had to get better and we'll continue to get better at is I didn't feel like we were finishing possessions with rebounds. So we wasn't getting out enough in transition. And other teams, even though we were taking care of the ball and we were turning them over, they were getting their extra possessions through offensive rebounds, and we had to get better in that area. Yeah.
I want to look towards tomorrow night a little bit here. It's North Carolina, it's NC State. It's going to be a high intensity game. How much do you lean on games like that to kind of I don't want to say spot check, because every game is a test, but you look at games like this to kind of see where you are in your development and how you are moving towards where you want to be when March and the rest of the season turns around.
Yeah, I mean, the motivation for our guys is like I said this, I think, earlier today. We got 4 teams in our state that are Power 5 that are all in the same conference. Nobody has that.
And you might argue the top 4 in the conference right now, the way you are all playing.
Yeah, and then in the triangle alone, we got 3, Power 5 teams who are all playing well, and they happen to be in the same conference. There shouldn't be any motivation. We're all within 25, 30 minutes from each other. They see each other all the time. They see each other at the mall. They're recruited against each other. They may even go to the same, hopefully not a lot, bars and clubs and those type of things. But at the end of the day, the motivation is our guys know, we hear it, and it will be a great atmosphere in PNC tomorrow night. I mean, it will be exciting. I know our guys are pumped up about it, but it will be a great atmosphere against 2 really good teams with, the same record, 11-3 overall and 3-0 in the conference.
Now, Coach Keatts, I don't mean to bring up any bad memories by any means, but I just want to paint
don't
a picture
do it.
a little
Don't do it. Whatever you're about to say, don't do it then. Don't do it.
That's a dangerous prerequisite, right? A dangerous qualifier.
At least he warned me. Yeah.
Hey, I'm as interested to see what he's going to say as you are, so I guess we'll tune in.
Let me paint this picture a little bit. Back on January 8th, 2019, you hosted a 12th-ranked UNC team where the Tar Heels never trailed in a 90-82 win. All 5 Tar Heel starters scored in double figures. One guy that I'm sure NC State fans are glad is no longer on the court, Luke May, had a double-double. UNC set the tone early by jumping out to a 12-0 run and never looked back in that win. How do you control this current Carolina offense going to the game tomorrow night to make sure that it's balanced to start the game early?
Well, Graham, is Luke May your boy? You just gave him a major shout out right there. I don't know where that came from.
Just earlier in this conversation, you ran through all the losses. I don't think you needed all those details. I think you probably had them locked in your brain like competitors do, right? Yeah.
No, listen, he just gave Luke May just one of his. Luke up for a job somewhere? We got to figure that out.
No, that's not it. If you just ask any State fan, they would say, Luke May, that's the one guy that we're glad is not playing in this game tomorrow night.
Hey, for my money, you can get for State fans, get rid of the whole May family, right? Get Drake May to the NFL.
If you got to throw Luke May, you got to say, think about this. You got to throw Al Freeman a bone for going 7 for 7 at Carolina.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Shot.
I'm teasing you. The starts are important. We got to have a good start. Nobody wants to get down 12. It was a great game. We just dug ourselves such a major hole, and it's hard to climb out of that. So, that wouldn't be the ideal situation. That's not the situation I'm looking for. I would love to come out and get off to a good start.
What do you learn from, you brought up that Notre Dame game. What do you learn from the Notre Dame game, specifically the kind of end, right? Winning those games where maybe you don't play your best. And I loved you in the post-game press conference basically saying, DJ Burns didn't play well. Casey Morsell didn't play well. DJ Horn didn't play well. But you win that game. And despite all of that, you had the confidence to drop the final play for DJ Burns. How does that help you moving into, the ACC's a meat grinder? We know that you're going to be in a lot of close games, and knowing that you pulled one out recently.
Well, you know what? We had to rely on our defense. And, what's lost in that game, and I'm part of the problem with it, is we talk so much about what we didn't do offensively, but we don't give a credit for what we did defensively, especially in the second half, holding those guys to 18 points on their home floor. And what we asked is just hang around, just keep hanging around, Offense is not going. I've never had a game where I didn't think anybody played well offensively, and we just hung around and hung around and hung around. And I said, at that 8-minute mark, we talked about playing the game in 4-minute wars. We talked about, hey, at that 8-minute mark, we were down 11. I think it was 7:45. And I said, hey, let's just try to cut it in half, by that time. And then we had cut it in half, but it was 2:45 left. One of the reasons why we struggled is because we didn't score, so we couldn't get into our presses. And once we got into our press, we forced a dribble off the leg, little point guard fell down. We got a travel on one of their players. Our pressure kind of warmed down. They missed some front ends of 1-on-1s. And so I think the thing that we can learn is if you're not having a great offensive night, you can rely on your defense. And that doesn't happen a lot because, in today's world, these kids are defined about how many baskets they make. So when you don't score the ball, everything falls apart for you. Yeah.
And see, I love that, right? When you have a rotation like yours, we've done a ton of talk about the rotation with the all the new faces and the new guys you're working in. But I also hear fresh legs, right? And
Yeah.
when you're talking about press, those are things you can do when you have 8 starters and 2 more guys working in. Even if certain players get winded, you can keep them rolling in. Should we expect more of that up tempo pressure style defense? Tomorrow night against UNC and beyond.
Yeah, and I hope so. You look back at that Notre Dame game, we set DJ Burns for a long time. We set DJ Horn for a long time. They just didn't have it offensively. And, give credit to Michael, give credit to Ben, give credit to Mo. Mo came in and really rebounded the heck out of the basketball. And so, as a coaching staff, what you start to do is you feel comfortable with 8 guys or 9 guys. And, you're not, so much in a hurry that you got to have this guy on the floor when you got, you start to trust more guys and have them play more minutes. And that's what's developing with this team.
Coach, we appreciate you for taking the time, joining us here on Pack Therapy. We'll look forward to catching back up with you later in the season, and good luck tomorrow. It's a big one. It'll be a fun atmosphere.
Hey, guys, thank you once again for having me on, and we're excited about tomorrow.
Best of luck, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Graham. Thanks, Tim.
We're back here on Pack Therapy following that conversation with NC State head basketball coach Kevin Keatts. And now I thought we'd dive deeper into the specifics of the UNC game. That was kind of a state of the program from Coach Keatts and where they are in their development. We get to chat with Coach a few times this season, so we don't want to make it all about one game. This can all be about one game here. Sorry if you guys heard that. I just moved my mic stand and it made a loud noise. Here's where I'm at for NC State right now. Their record is really good. Their losses, I thought it was interesting that Coach Keatts went right into a breakdown of the 3 losses, because what I've noticed is BYU, Ole Miss, Tennessee have all gotten significantly better, risen in rankings since, or I don't want to say they got better. Their reputation and how people see them is they've gotten a lot better since then. So the 3 losses have turned into like quad 1 losses. They're good losses, which they weren't at the time. But they're still lacking that massive victory. UNC is that opportunity. And it's even better because it's a rivalry game. So, whether they're ranked 7th in the country or 70th in the country, it's going to be a hard-fought game. And for NC State going into North Carolina going into NC State's home gym of PNC, everything's lining up if there's going to be an upset for NC State to take that opportunity to get their signature win.
It's always a big-time game when you play North Carolina, whether it's in Chapel Hill, whether it's in PNC Arena. And as you mentioned, this is a chance for NC State to get their first quad 1 win of the season. North Carolina just moved up to 7th overall in the latest AP Top 25
They have
poll.
4 quad 1 wins, by the way. So their schedules have been set up very differently.
Yeah, this is the first time since January 22nd of 1974 and the 4th time ever that NC State and UNC have played when both teams were at least 3-0 in the ACC. I wanted to ask Coach Keatts, does that intensify the feeling, the magnitude of this game? But I'm sure the coach answer that he would have given is just, we just try to focus on one game at a time. And it just so happens that North Carolina is our next opponent. But
I actually respect that he didn't do that. I respect that he said, listen, there are 4 really good teams, all play Power 5, all in the same conference in North Carolina, 3 in the Triangle. I shouldn't have to motivate is essentially what he said. And I agree with that. Like if there's someone in the pregame locker room at PNC tomorrow night, 7:45, waiting for coach to give like his A-game pregame speech to get jacked up, there's something wrong with that player. Like Kevin Keatts, his pregame speech should be able to be like, here are the starters. Good luck, guys. Like, that's all it needs to be.
And another thing that I was also wondering is with all the guys that he brought in from the transfer portal, do they know how big of a game this is for NC State's program? And obviously, DJ Burns and Casey Morsell played in this game last year along with LJ Thomas and KJ Keatts. So I'm sure they've kind of set the stage a little bit for these new guys. But DJ Horn, when asked about, all right, the next game is Carolina after the win on Saturday, he said, yeah, growing up, in the Triangle area, we always think about North Carolina and Duke. NC State, North Carolina kind of as the shadow a little bit, but no, I'm excited. This is a big opportunity for this team.
It is a big opportunity, and I think you learn quick. Just today there's news going on about State's collective. Their NIL collective is going from Pack of Wolves and Savage Wolves being separate to they're now one and the same, one pack, and Savage Wolves is football only. But they put out a little video, and Casey Morsell's in the video. DJ Burns is in the video. These basketball players are immersed in they transfer in, and 2 weeks later, they know, like, all right, when we see UNC, it's on site. Like, it's that kind of deal. So I think they'll understand. I think it'll be a really, really fun atmosphere. From an X's and O's standpoint, you heard Coach talking about how the rotation is still a work in progress. When you're playing a team like UNC that has an Armando Bacot, that has a Harrison Ingram, some of these Ingram's 6'7", 6'8", but Bacot, like, you might see more Mo Diarra, right? You might see more Ben Middlebrooks. You might see more of the guys with size, and because they have, someone has to defend a Bacot, and NC State's seen that guy for the last 5 years. They know what he's about. So, the rotation may be a little bit different in that respect. I'm looking at their perimeter players and saying, yeah, State has, or UNC has some good perimeter players, but State has a wave of defenders to send at them, especially if someone like MJ Rice is back and being unleashed more and more. So, the perimeter is going to be, I think, an opportunity for them to play well. Down low is where they have to make sure they don't get beat.
And I'm glad you brought up the rotation. I think the bench is most certainly going to be important in this game. I mean, in that Virginia win, NC State had 21 points off the bench. And you finally started to see guys like Ben Middlebrooks, Michael O'Connell, MJ Rice, who came into the game and kind of made his presence known immediately, scoring an early basket. You're starting to see these guys get a little more comfortable at the right time entering ACC play. So it's going to be important for the depth to be utilized tomorrow against North Carolina, who also has a deep bench and a deep rotation. So it might be a little chess versus checkers match at times tomorrow night against North Carolina and NC State.
It's also it is that, right? And Keatts, Coach Keatts and Coach Davis know each other, and they know the systems, and it's going to be that, all right, he's going to think I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do that, and he's going to counter with this, and I'm going to do, like, that's all fun and games. It's also in rivalries and in big games, and this happens to be both. Big time, what's the saying? Big time players make big time plays and big time games, big time moments, whatever it is. I'm looking at DJ Burns, right? You want to wear the sunglasses, you want to be in the commercials, you want to do all that. I'm looking at DJ Burns to have a big game because everything I said, right? They have to find a way to guard Bacot down low. Well, they have to find a way to guard DJ Burns down low also. And quick story, and I told this on my afternoon show yesterday. It's part of the reason why I love the culture that Coach Keatts is building, and part of the reason why I love DJ Burns as a player. Watching their game against UVA, and the UVA game is as good as they've looked to me, like, all season. There's a play where DJ Burns caught it in the corner. DJ Burns, not a three-point shooter, not breaking news there, right? But he was engaged, and he surveyed the court. He has good vision, and he threw a full cross-court skip pass to O'Connell. And I try to, and in basketball it's more difficult for me, but I try to not always just watch the ball. I try to watch the full court. So once O'Connell catches it and he's open, I know what O'Connell's going to do. He's a three-point shooter. He caught it and he's open. So I know he's going to rise. I know what his three-point form looks like. I can tell by how everyone reacts, whether it goes in or not. So I just start watching the rest of the court. And DJ Burns started flexing like he just dunked on somebody.
Yeah.
And the shot goes up. boom, drills it. O'Connell had a really good day. And Burns is looking towards the bench. He's posturing. He's doing all the trash talk, a little bit of maybe a half chest bump. And I'm going, that's why I love that culture. That's why I love DJ Burns. That was a skip pass. That was a it's like celebrating a dive in football or a single. And like, it was a skip pass, but you could tell he was excited that he made the right play. He was excited that he set up his teammate. He was excited that the teammate converted. It was obviously every three in a basketball game is a big game or a big play. And I'm going, that's what they need when they get to their bigger ACC games. UVA is not very good this year. Notre Dame's not very good this year, and Notre Dame beat UVA by double figures. So I'm looking at that and saying that's what they need to take to the next game. That's what they need to take to UNC. DJ Burns, make the right play, right? And sometimes you're going to have to score 15, and sometimes you're going to have to have 5 assists. Casey Morsell, I know Casey Morsell can score more than he's scoring. But right now he's doing a great job setting up DJ Horn and Dennis Parker Jr. and everybody else. Keep doing that. I'm looking at this team and saying they need to be as excited when someone else hits the shot because they made a great skip pass than them making the shot themselves. And that's what I saw from DJ Burns, and I really, really liked it.
I'm glad you brought up Casey Morsell. Definitely want to see a lot more out of him in this game, not only because he's a grad guard, but as you mentioned, your top players need to have top performances. He only had 5 points in the win against Virginia, 2 of 9 from the field, 1 of 7 from behind the arc. He started the game 0-4, both from the field and from 3-point shooting. NC State's going to need to have their best players step up. You know what you're going to get out of Armando Bacot. You know what you're going to get out of RJ Davis, who, crazily enough, is playing the best basketball of his career. You know what you're going to get out of Harrison Ingram. Even Elliot Cadeau is starting to develop into what I think everybody was expecting from him before the season. What are you going to get out of your top guys if you're Kevin Keatts?
And I want to be clear, it's not, when I say that, it's not just scoring. That's part of the story I told you. Like Casey Morsell, we talked to him at ACC Tip-Off. I've said this a bunch of times. He took it upon himself to make sure all the transfers felt welcomed. He was the guy that was throwing hosting the hangouts when everybody got together and got to know each other. And he told us that, and he's doing the same out there on the court, making sure, right, nobody's left behind, everybody gets theirs, and if he has a day, like, let's be real, against Virginia, he wasn't shooting it well. And they weren't necessarily even bad shots, right?
Yeah.
They just weren't falling. If you have that day, heck, go get me 6 assists and 8 rebounds and 2 steals, right? The best players can, and the same with you heard Coach talk about Mo Diarra grabbing rebounds, right? If there's a game where your offense isn't working, don't be unproductive just because your offense isn't working. I think that's important to get something out of everybody in that rotation as well. The fact of the matter is, it's going to be a home game against the number 7 ranked team in the country, who happens to be one of your bitter rivals. It's an 8 p.m. game, so it's a night game. Everybody will have time to get off work, get a little tailgate in, and get to the game and have a good time. It's going to be a big game, and I think Coach Keatts will have them ready based on everything we talked about earlier in the show.
I'm excited. To me, and I've been going to a lot of these NC State, North Carolina games growing up. This one feels like it might be the biggest one in a while, just because how the record's set up, and also it's the first matchup of the season.
Yeah, it's a little early in the season, but you said, I mean, they're both 3-0. They're, one's ranked, one's not. They have identical records. When you can take with that what you want. But we'll be back next week to react to it, to hopefully have another awesome guest for you, and to break down where NC State is in their season next week. So until then, thank you to Grant, thank you to Coach Keatts. We'll see you.